Hey Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, perfect. Yeah, doing great. Thank you. Doing great. So I think we'll just give this a couple more seconds whilst a few people are still jumping on, and then we can get on with the webinar. How's your morning been so far, Eric?
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Sun is shining.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful day.
Oh,
Yeah,
lucky for some. It's not so nice here in Manchester.
it's a very bright day here. So Said made the right call to come over.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm quite envious of him over in the Netherlands. So
Yeah, the only thing, the last time we had a bottle trip and now we don't. So the question is,
that's
who
it.
made the right call?
That's it. That's it. That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, no, I think yeah, it does look like everyone. So let's crack in. So good afternoon to everyone that has joined already. Appreciate you jumping on today. We've actually got some people joining from across the pond. So to our American friends, good morning to you guys. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Today we'll be covering the sort of cost of attrition. So how can companies better utilize the role of a social intranet to really try and reduce the number of attrition. So really trying to build a sense of belonging and keep employees happy within their organization. So I'm Nathan. I'm a part of the growth team over here in Manchester, focusing on global markets for Workspace 365. I work with both sort of channel partners as well as direct customers as well. And I think this has been one of the sort of most prevalent challenges, regardless of industry, regardless of markets, that we're really seeing is that sort of attrition rate with employees leaving the organization. So looking forward to getting into this today, and I'm joined by none other than Eric Nicolai, co-founder of Workspace 365. I think you can also do your own introduction.
Yeah, sure. So, hi Nathan. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, so one of the co-founders of Workspace 5 have been playing an active role in the whole simplification journey of our product and company. And one of the few things we aim to simplify is really about communication, which I think is directly linked to what we're going to discuss today. So my main background is IT, product marketing. So love to kind of explain the whole product story and how we really think we can play a role in this topic today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, looking forward to it. So, what can everyone expect from this webinar? So, quick agenda. We'll first sort of be looking into some of the market trends that we're seeing. So, why is employee attrition rising? Where are organisations currently going wrong with sort of driving culture? And like I say, building that sense of belonging. And then we'll actually dive into what the impact of that is. What is the actual sort of cost of attrition for organisations? And then we'll be looking into sort of what the role of a social intranet plays and how organizations can better utilize that to really drive culture, to engage with employees, to make sure people really feel like they have a place at the organization, and also being able to spot some of the signs of disengagement. So you can really try and patch that, let's call it a leaky bucket, which is attrition. And then we'll be taking a dive into the Workspace 365 platform, our sort of integrated social intranet, which is really helping our customers drive their culture and make sure that employees are heard and appreciated and have one place to go to be a part of the organization. So, yeah, what is the cost of attrition? And I think we can start this off by diving into sort of what culture is within an organization. So, Eric, I think 15 years as a product, as a business owner, I think compliments to you in doing sort of what you've done with Workspace 365 and really building a sense of culture internally. So, I think it'd be interesting to hear from you. What do you see is culture in an organization and why is it important for employees?
Yeah, so I think the best way to look at culture is that it feels like you belong somewhere, right? So if you're part of a group of friends or part of a group of a family or part of a company, and it can be profit or non-profit, it feels like you belong, right? So it feels like a place that on the Monday morning you want to go back with your stories and you want to be say, hey, this is what is something I experienced. So the more you have the feeling of the more you belong, the more you feel like you can contribute. And I think the essence of our economy is that more and more people feel like a disconnect in the companies they work for. And I think COVID didn't really help because being remote kind of really makes kind of work more as an transaction, right? So I give my time, I get money in return, and my time is valued by X. And I think employment is much more than just your time being valued at X, right? So your employment in a company should make you feel part of it. And because you're part of it, you're growing as a person and you're growing as in, let's say, on the knowledge level, and experience level. And then together you can achieve so much more. And I think if you kind of stop feeling that connection with the company, people kind of check out and then people kind of looking towards the next job. And at that time between checking out and looking for the next role may take 6 to 12 months, right? So it's not that people immediately check out and then they find a new job. It's that people feel like, hey, this is not for me anymore. And I think the time people spend within the current role and the time they feel like they can really add something is shortening, right?
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
and I think in our current knowledge economy, becomes a bigger and bigger problem
Yeah, of
because
course.
for some occupations where you just on the first day you feel like you can kind of produce from day one, which I think in some verticals it's like, hey, if you start working in a supermarket, you may have a training and onboarding for, let's say, a day or two, and then you can already do the role that people expect from
Yeah.
you. And in more knowledge-based kind of economy or verticals, it really takes a longer time to get people up to speed.
Yeah, definitely.
And if people shorten their time within the company, then the time to really kind of make everything what you do very valuable is really becoming a problem.
Yeah, of course. And I think especially with Workspace growing globally, I've been part of many sort of interviews for salespeople, and we've spoken to a lot of people coming from much larger organizations, and one of the things they often say, and I think you hear this in every interview, is people feel like they're just a number at organizations. They don't really feel, if they close a deal, if they hit their KPIs, they don't feel like that's appreciated.
Hmm.
Which is why they tend to then leave and try and find an organization that does appreciate that. Um, so I think if we look at sort of what the cost is then if of people losing, you kind of alluded to that a little bit below before. So with the sort of if you have a long onboarding experience, you know, culture's really implemented in that first step of the employee journey. But if you look at a company of around 200 users and they have an attrition rate of say about 5%, it increases by 5%, that's around 8 to 10K in sort of replacement cost per employee. So you're looking at about 80 to 100K a year in attrition cost, which is absolutely massive for organizations in this economy. And yeah, a little bit like you said as well about the sort of knowledge. It takes a while for those employees to get up to speed, but you also have to think of the employees that have been at the organization for, let's say, 5 to 10 years, and they have that sort of knowledge base already. And when one of those employees leaves, that's such a large amount of knowledge that's just walked out of the organization.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, slows down projects,
Yeah. So
pressure.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think there are two ways of looking at this, Nathan. So the one element of it is that okay, there is a healthy amount of attrition, right?
yeah,
So and how you cope with attrition, right? So if it happens, what do you do? That's the element one. And I think, okay,
yeah,
what can you do to extend kind of the time people spend within the company? So let's first focus on the second, on the latter,
yeah,
is okay, how can we extend the time people spend within the role? Is I
yeah,
think people want to feel appreciation, people want to belong, and people really want to see their kind of their future being held. Hey, how can I achieve my next step, right? So those three things, if they're in place, people will stay longer within the current role,
yeah,
or stay longer within the company. But second, I think if all the knowledge we expect from people are in people's head are not maintained and written down in processes, it becomes really much harder to replace people. And I think the smaller the company, the more knowledge is just in people's head and not written down.
yeah,
And I think there are two elements. So people need to know how to do, so we can shorten the time to onboard, because the reality is people spend fewer, let's say, a shorter time within the company. If we accept that, the only thing we have to do is really kind of shorten the time to onboard and allow people to really become to their full capacity and the full capacity in a shorter period of time. But still, if we kind of keep track of all the process and the knowledge in systems rather than people's head,
yeah,
we just maintain the right flow as well. So I think there are two ways of kind of solving the problem.
Yeah.
And I think when we make things simpler, people know what's expected from them.
Yeah.
But I think we also have to accept that turnover is part of every company, which can also be healthy if it's at the right level.
Yeah. Of course. And
Because new people ask new questions, right? So new
yeah,
questions always make you
exactly.
smarter and rethink
Definitely.
your strategy. But
Yeah.
if you have kind of a 50% turnover, 40%, and you
Yeah.
lose all the people in one team, you have a major problem. So it has to
Yeah.
be the right flow.
Yeah.
But I think especially when you think about if your company becomes more mature, you also attract different people, which is
Yeah.
completely fine if it's natural. And I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest balance.
Yeah, exactly. And you sort of mentioned as well, sort of storing that knowledge. And I think looking at sort of a technology perspective, where do you see the sort of challenges that technology is causing for employees to connect with the organization and vice versa?
I think the unclarity is like, where do I go, right? So I think a good example is that if you get into your car in the morning, you don't think, okay, what dashboard do I look, right? So can I start my car? Can I drive safely? And how fast am I driving? Is everything in the right temperature? You don't think about, hey, I have three dashboards to look at. I need to check all the ones. You just get in your car,
Yeah.
you light up the engine, or you just get started, and all the indications are in one clear dashboard, right? So you don't need to think where to go.
Yeah.
And I think the amount of people within their current roles, they have to think, am I looking in the right document? Am I looking at the right procedure? Am I looking at the right knowledge item? Am I following the right process? I think
Yeah.
all those questions people constantly ask themselves, am I doing the right thing? I think that's depleting the batteries, right?
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
constantly second guessing what you're doing, it's so sad because
Yeah.
it's just a waste
Completely.
of time. Like if you're on a hike, you don't want to rethink every step you make towards the destination if you're on the right track. You just want to keep going. You want to be in your flow. And
Yeah.
I think in many
Absolutely.
many roles within the company, people second guess every single step because they're not sure about the things they do. It's almost like being on this perfect hike, getting up towards the peak of the mountain, and you're
Yeah.
second guessing every step, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, it will be depleting my battery, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Completely. Exactly. Yeah, and I think that yeah goes into sort of what we see as the modern employee experience. So there's quite a lot of information on this slide. So I think for you, obviously, when you started Workspace 365, it was what 15 years ago. Sort of the real rise from the shift from legacy into cloud computing, and then obviously you've developed Workspace as more complexity has been added into the workspace from a digital point of view. But which of these sort of challenges do you really feel like are the biggest challenges for organizations?
Yeah, yeah, good questions. And I think back in the days when we started this company in 2010, it was literally the conversation people had, hey, are we going to all-in-one systems, right? So are we going to an ERP system that can do everything for us, right? So that was
Yeah,
the rise of a company like NetSuite. And this was the thinking of, hey, everything will become in one platform. And I think one thing we realized over the last 15 years is that things only get more fragmented, right? So looking at the whole digital transformation from paper to digital, things are supposed to go easier and let's say more, let's say clarity. I think the opposite happened as we are getting more and more tools doing a specific thing. So it's really down to management and leadership of a company. Say, hey, we need to create clarity. Like, how do we store information? How do we access information? How do we do everything? And
yeah,
what's the kind of a modus operandi to get information out of a system?
mm,
And where to look. And I think not having this clarity, where the information is stored with the rise in amount of tools.
yeah,
So I think the combination of having multiple systems, kind of creating a different flow of information, is really kind of the core of the problem, right? So we have too many systems with unclarity where to store what.
yeah,
So people just don't know and they
mm,
just do something. Hey, where do I store this? Where do I access this? Where do I
yeah,
find this? Is this the latest? Is this the final template? So this second guessing, I
yeah.
think, is the basis of distraction because it's not about people not confident. We can make people uncomfortable or distracted about second guessing everything they do.
Yeah, exactly. And the sort of impact of that on the business is also beyond the end user. I think also if you look at IT teams as well, not only are they obviously managing those sort of outdated systems, but also having to respond to very simple IT ticket requests, sort of where's my document or where do I need to go for X, Y, and Z, or
Yeah,
why is this application not running? So not
yeah,
being able to
yeah,
communicate that. Sorry, go on.
100% Nathan. But I think one thing very important we hardly realize is that when people ask an official question, they already ask three people around them. And
Yeah,
we often look at data, right? So, okay, how many tickets did we get in our support team? How many complaints did we get as an NPS score? Like, how did we do? And before before employees or even customers do something official, they already spoke to three or four people
yeah,
asking the question or giving their feedback. So we should look at the bigger picture about the impact of not fixing this.
hmm,
Because the impact of fixing this, just the noise around people's unclarity, is not in the ticketing system. Because people won't ask IT where's the latest document only if they can't get help from the people around them. So I think when we
yeah,
actively show presence at the work floors and listen to people's complaint, their feedback, we will learn that the information we want to know is not in the system, in the ticketing systems or in the feedback. It's in the gossiping, in the questions people ask between colleagues. And if we can kind of zoom in on the questions they ask, and can we focus on the progress, focus on the
yeah,
destination, focus on where to go to, rather than, hey, I'm struggling here in my current day, in my current momentum. We want to give people perspective and walk towards this perspective. Say, this is where
yeah,
I'm going, this is where we're heading together as a team, as a company.
yeah,
Show perspective rather than kind of running around the circles.
yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And yeah, so I guess again that goes into sort of this next slide of disconnects. The disconnected communications means disconnected people. So yeah, if you don't have that solid sort of flow of communication from top of the organization to the bottom, then that's where culture also becomes fragmented. And we were seeing, yeah, at the moment, huge sort of challenge with information overload, disconnections, and
Mhm.
yeah, what do you see sort of how do you see this impacting businesses from a cultural perspective?
Yeah, I think a very simple way of explaining this is that everyone likes to communicate from their own perspective, right? So you go to your GP
Yeah,
and they will give you their analysis of what you feel, what you don't feel well, and you go to them. Then you go to the hospital, and then you go to the second stop after the hospital. So you're ready
yeah,
to throw to kind of three institutions that can help you about your health. But to get access to it, you need to access all the different systems. So it's not about me, right? So I'm a civilian. I live in the Netherlands. If there's something about me, I want to have one view about my health, and other people can help me to give me insights. That's my GP, that's hospital, that's everything. But it's
hmm,
about me. It's not about the system. It's not about the GP. It's not about the hospital. It's about me. And I think we make the mistake in companies that we think it's about communication. It's about HR. It's about IT. It's
yeah,
not about HR. It's not about IT. It's not about anything else rather than the employee's perspective. So the only way to fix this, if we give people one view, one
yeah,
experience, one platform to say, hey, this is about you. This is what you need to do your job. This is what we expect from you.
yeah,
And this is the information you need to kind of go in your hike and be on the right track. So we need to switch minds and think, hey, it's not about us as IT want to communicate.
yeah,
It's not about communication that want to communicate. It's not about HR. It's about how to give people the perspective. What is the information they need to know? And
yeah,
that's what we need to share. So we really need to flip sides and to look at it from the view of the employee
yeah,
rather than through the company, to the team that wants to achieve something.
yeah, yeah. So it's more about sort of gathering a holistic view of the
Yep,
organization rather than sort of fragmented silos of stakeholders sort of making their own assumptions on these sort of yeah outcomes. It's understanding the employee
100%.
perspective.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
100%. And to
So
make this bigger, Nathan, so I think if people don't fix this, right,
yeah,
so people won't feel they belong in a company. And of course, there are much talk about, let's say, the foundation of a company that people, let's say, read the book Start With Why from Simon Sinek, right? So there's a whole wave of ways to explain how to run a company
hmm,
better than just or bigger than, hey, we want to make a profit or
yeah,
you want to make the CEO rich. Or, of course, there's many explanations to be made. But I think the essence of this is that it's not only about defining your why and sharing this, it has to be part of everything you do that people feel this, right? So they want to be part of this, and you need to make it very explicit what you expect from them, how you value them, how you inform them about their progress. And it's not only about making it retention, it's about
yeah,
the whole purpose of the company, and then retention is a result of it.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to sort of highlight this the statistic that we found from our UK research that we did earlier this year. 6 out of 10 employees would actually leave an organization um, if they felt that their internal IT systems were too complex, if the sort of where their systems lie were all it does impact that sort of employee satisfaction and fragments them from that belonging. So as a platform, we'll start going into the workspace. How do organizations utilize the hub then to build a sense of belonging and make sure that employees are engaged with the organization? From the perspective I shared earlier, from an enterprise level, with people leaving because they feel like they're just a number. How can you use a social intranet to make sure people feel recognized, feel like they are engaging with the organization?
Yeah, so just to give some perspective, so within Workspace 5, we focus on to simplify everything and really want to give work focus back to the employees. And we do this on three angles, right? So it's about IT simplification, it's about communication simplification, and about information and workflow commerce simplification. And the angle for today is really about communication as the big umbrella. So the thing you're looking at now within Workspace 5 in the screenshot is how to measure engagement and statistics about the things you share, right? So many communication teams, they complain about, we really struggle to measure and to show how many people reread with the things we want to communicate. And in effective communication is critical, right? So how many people reread with this message? So we have a workforce of 200 people. How many people read this message, right? So the interactions, the engagement, right? So if you can interact on an announcement, you can kind of get a sense of how many interactions, right? So people think on Instagram, how many likes did I get on my photo, right? So
Yeah.
people view this as, hey, how likable is my post? So the same when in communication in the company, how likable is your post? Like, do people engage? And of course, baby news, holiday information, that's more likable than just the company kind of more structured data update, but
Yeah.
it may be very important, right? So, okay, so if you have a health risk or you have an updated security policy, or a data breach has to reach everyone, right? So there are different ways of how to reach people. Within the workspace, we can have different settings about, hey, this has to be sent now. This is sent and planned for Monday. This is only applicable for this specific group. So not all the information we share is for everyone. And I think one thing we have to learn is like the more targeted we communicate, the better we get the message across. So when you see the numbers now in this workspace kind of overview, some information may, let's say, get up the digit of everyone, and some of it may be only one specific team. So not
Yeah.
only every announcement has to be 8,000 plus, if that's the company size, you really say, who's the addressable kind of employee count?
Yeah.
And then you have to look at statistics. Did every employee I'm targeting read the announcement? And of course, you will never get to 100%, but this is how to use statistics to really become effective in your
Yeah.
conversion rates and communication. Because for me, internal communication has to be as effective in conversions as external communication to customers if you think about ROI, because your employees are the biggest cost factor of many companies.
Yeah. No, well said. And I think a big challenge that organizations actually have is getting people onto the social intranet. So I think, yeah, in this slide, sort of say it should feel like a home and not another system. When you look at sort of, let's say, healthcare, for example, if you think of the frontline workers, they need to access their sort of patient records, all sorts of different tools. So the social intranet does become the last port of call. And that's sort of the same across a lot of organizations, a lot of industries. Can you talk us through this sort of cycle of how you can really sort of build, I guess, a sense of a home within the social internet that users will want to go to keep up to date with the organization?
Yeah, 100%. So I think there are three ways of looking at this, right? So the first element of it is kind of recognizing and using the right terminology, right?
Mm.
So you can call a few things. You can call it the workspace. You can call it your hub. You can call it many things. I think find the right names that make it kind of a more personal experience and also brand it throughout it, right? So just we have many customers that give it a name, right? So close to the company name or just completely something else. So making it personal, making a target, that's the second, right? So like I explained, if the information is very targeted, we don't see things that are relevant, not for me, but for my colleagues or someone that's in another location. So the better the personalization layer is, the more likable it is that people go to it, right? So if people say, hey, this is relevant for me, I can find what I'm looking for, then it becomes very relevant, and then people actually go to it because they can find what they're looking for. And I think many intranets are designed by the company and not through the eyes of the employee. So
Yeah.
it's not very helpful. It just becomes another system. And I think the essence of a house, your home, is it's your couch, it's your TV, right? So if you get
Yeah.
into an Airbnb, you switch on the telly, and it's not your Netflix, you already have to log out and log in again, right? So that's the first experience of it's not your home, it's a
Yeah.
house. You have to log into your Netflix to make the telly yours. And I think that's just one element of a home versus a house. And if you make the workspace about you, it really has to help you to perform a better job and to be part of the company. And I think that's the essence of making things to make things very kind of home-like and kind of applicable to employees.
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's take a look at a sort of real world example of one of our customers over in the Netherlands, Gemeente Almelo, if I pronounced that right,
Yeah, you did.
which is
Well, the
for
Dutch
us
is
in the
improving,
UK.
Nathan.
There
Yeah.
we go. I'm learning slowly. Next webinar I'll do in Dutch. But yeah, so this is a council over in the Netherlands. One of our sort of largest sectors is local government. Talk us through how we really helped Almelo transform their sort of social intranet and help them drive belonging.
Yeah, I think there are a few things worthwhile mentioning. Is one is you can transform a company from day one to day two. Say you can switch it on and say, hey, this is your new experience, and expect that everything will be better. And that's not the reality, right? So the most companies transform on a step-by-step basis, right? So really help them to improve and make employees see the value of this. But I think the one thing Almelo really wanted to solve is clarity, right? So they felt that a lot of unclarity about where do you go, where do I find this, and how do I really kind of connect with the right people. And we really took it on a step-by-step approach, right? So hey, how can we start very small to kind of address the most immediate problems, and then on an ongoing basis, really kind of kept improving the workspace experience or the employee experience throughout the whole council. And that's something people felt recognized because hey, I'm addressing this, I'm raising this in my team, and it's actually I see this improving. So it was not only say, hey, this is old, this is new. We really kind of say, hey, this is the things we want to improve. We also communicate this very clearly by, hey, these are the things, this is why we do this, and this is what we want to solve. If you feel like we're not helping you to kind of improve this, let us know, right? So that was the whole project group. Say, hey, this is what we want to achieve. We're very clear about this is the objective of the project. This is why we do this. If you feel like we're not reaching this, let us know. Become part of it. Be vocal. And I think the whole communication about this is what we want to achieve. Are we helping you to become more connected, to know what you have to do, to understand to where to find? So we really took kind of on the very small. We started very kind of very focused, and now we are implementing the workspace to really become this connected platform, not only as an internet, but also really to become a connected platform where people within Workspace 5, within the workspace, are able to search through everything, right? So we are now in the phase where we are connecting all their apps to one workspace that we can also go searching through all the applications. So it started with IT and how to provide access to the applications. Then we said the next step is really to kind of combine communication into this. But the next step is really can we also make information flow within the account so that people really can find everything through their workspace. So it really becomes a single dashboard rather than kind of just only an intranet. And I think that's the biggest differentiating factor how we position it. Yes, we want to solve the communication problem, but I don't think communication by itself is a problem you want to address. You want to address the employee experience, and communication is part of this. So I would like to advise every one of you that is joining this webinar today or watching the recording later to flip your perspective on the internet. Don't think about what you want to communicate. Think about what people want to access and how people access this.
Yeah, perfect. And for those watching, I think it's now quite valuable just to sort of give an explanation of what Workspace 365 is and how we are helping and what the platform sort of entails.
Yeah, sure. So within Workspace 5, our goal is really to provide one experience, one interface with access, excuse me, one interface and one experience to access everything, right? So we don't define everything, right? So everything, it's your definition. Your definition of everything could be your information, your application, your communication. So you define the everything, but we want to take care of, make sure we bring everything together. One experience, that means one login, one way of accessing all the applications, while make sure it's still kind of applying to the same conditions you set as a
Yeah,
company. So it could be, say, yes, we want to make sure people can access all their applications on every location. But this application, you only can access it within the office or within the building or not in a public location, right? So we can set all type of parameters to make sure we make it safe and also kind of improve the employee experience.
yeah,
So having the best employee experience is not saying you can do everything, whatever you want, right? So it's make sure we apply to company policies, are maintaining sure that people can really kind of access everything and really make it a consistent experience. So we want to simplify the whole employee experience through a digital workspace. So it becomes the start of your day, it becomes the middle of your day and the end of your day to make sure you feel connected,
exactly.
to launch your applications, to access the company information, to access the company policies about either travel, about how to request days off, how to access anything about HR, but also kind of work related, right? So what's expected from me, what's my latest presentation, what my latest proposal, the latest page, the latest page that I'm working on. So everything about your workspace should be about you. So giving a view about, okay, what's my day look like? What's expected from me? My agenda, my to-dos, my things to sign. So everyone's role is different. So let's not try to make it generic that everyone's work is the same. But you know your work. You know how everything together, how everything combined in one experience can really help you to simplify, not to say, I need to go to this finance application to approve invoices. I need to go to the HR app to do this. I need to go to the CRM app to do this. It should be one. You
Yeah,
should have one experience, one interface to guide you through the day, to the week, and to the month.
exactly. No, perfectly summarized there. Um, so on that, I think we've still got a little bit of time, so it's good to save a bit of space for some Q&As for some people who have tuned in. Yeah, feel free to pop in some questions. I feel like there already have been a couple, so I'll just have a quick look. Yeah, so here's one question. So, many organizations already have an intranet in place, but engagement is still low. What's usually missing?
Now it's hard to say. Yeah, uh, as a prediction, what we see with our customers, what is missing is the personalization, and so that people see many things is not relevant for them, right?
Yeah,
So they are a Manchester City fan, and they see everything about Arsenal, right? So you don't want to see things about Arsenal if you're a City fan, right? So it has to be about City, right? So that's the
yeah,
level of personalization you need to apply to your workspace.
yeah,
So personalization should be one, and I think it's just another tool, right? So it's just another tool rather than your dashboard, right? So think about the car, multiple
yeah.
dashboards, not working. You want to have one view and a clear overview of what's expected. It should be incorporated into the employee experience and not just another tool from communication. And I
Yeah.
think most companies we talk to and that they're reconsidering the whole internet play is they have another tool. And I think we are not reaching our goals because personalization is not applicable, is not applied and we just don't see it as through the eyes of the employee. We only see it through the eyes of communication.
I think another example with that as well. We actually spoke to one of our customers over in Norway. Well, I think one of the challenges I mentioned before is sort of, social internet can typically be the last port of call. There's not often a huge sort of need for a user to go to the social internet. But what we see is customers using Workspace 365 as the landing platform. So this construction company over in Norway actually have Workspace 365 replace their start menu. And what you can use with the social intranet is have pop-up announcements. So it just becomes a part of the user's workflow. If you are logging into Workspace 365 to get access to a document or to get access to an application, if you're on site, you get hit with that announcement as a pop-up straight away. And it takes about 2 seconds to give it a like, to write a quick comment. Maybe it's an announcement about baby news, maybe it's a reporting that the system's down, but it just gives that user information straight to their device, and then they can get on with their working day. So to access the social intranet, it's not actually disrupting their workflow, and it makes it a lot easier for them to engage with that. And the same works for events. I think one of our biggest customers over in the Netherlands, a hospital, actually told us they'd never seen as many people at the Christmas party. I think that's one of our favourite stories here, is because they post that pop-up announcement as an event for the Christmas party, and it automatically connects to their Outlook calendar. So we're taking away a lot of those sort of workflows that may be causing friction, in their day to get to the social intranet. So by bringing that to them, we see a huge increase in engagement.
Yes, I think it's all about clarity, right? So I think the examples you explain are a perfect example of, okay, make sure you create you have the workflow view from an employee, right? So blend it in that day, one dashboard. And I think the second example is, so it's not about the event, it's not about the feature of scheduling event that we are able to kind of communicate about the Christmas party. It's about having everything integrated into one,
Yeah,
and where again, you define the everything, but we can make it very simple to make sure the everything is integrated into one platform, one experience.
yeah. No, perfect. So I hope that answers your question. And we do have another one here. How do you balance simplifying systems with keeping things secure?
Um, yeah, I don't think it's a trade-off, to be honest. So everything we do within Versity 5 is on an authentic user authentication level. So we don't trade simplicity for security or the other way around. So we don't reveal security. Everything we do is secure while we're still maintaining it, making it super simple. So it's not an either if question. It's just
Yeah,
everything we do is super secure. We only go into your house with your keys. So we don't provide you information about anything else and you have access to, right? So
yeah,
everything is authentication based
yeah,
with your credentials. So if you, Nathan, sign into your workspace, you
yeah,
can only view what you have access to because everything we do is your key.
yeah,
So we don't provide duplicates, we don't sync data, we don't restore data. We just give you live access and a live perspective of everything that's relevant for you. So I don't feel like it's a trade-off,
no, definitely
security
not.
for
Definitely not.
simplicity.
No, exactly. Yeah. And we've also got the sort of in-house conditional access as well. So you do have actually an added layer of security when you're connecting those sort of legacy systems or
Yeah.
other applications. So
Yeah, of course,
uh,
employees are the weakest link, right? So in every
yeah,
security challenge, like we can make things super secure from a company perspective, but we still have to inform and instruct how employees need to act. I think that's a user education challenge.
yeah,
But from a platform perspective, it's not a trade-off.
yeah. No, exactly. I see there's actually quite a few questions coming in. So just on time, I'll reach out to you all sort of individually and sort of give you an answer. And to those who are maybe tuning in later on, to feel free to ping me a message on LinkedIn or drop me an email. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you've really been able to take something away from this, maybe have some new ideas for your own organizations. And like I say, if you are interested in sort of having a look at how we can work with your organization, then feel free to drop myself or Eric a message. And thank you, Eric, for joining as well. It's been great to have your
Yeah,
insights on this.
keep simplifying, everyone.
Yeah, that's it. Keep simplifying.
Have a
Perfect.
good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye
Have a good
bye.
afternoon. Bye bye.